So I'm very interested in talking with you. I met you at a dinner party a few months ago, and you've had a lot of experiences in Hawaii since then. And you're part of the attorney exchange program that we set up here a couple, 3 years ago.
Yes.
In fact, I think you're the third lawyer who's come by, and
The fourth.
the fourth.
Yes.
Okay, and then there's be another one.
Yeah. Another one. His name is
in
Jonathan.
the spring.
He will arrive by the end of January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So we have a regular stream of lawyers coming now. This is good. What we have to do is get lawyers to go to China and spend some time there. We haven't done that yet, have we?
Yeah, maybe. I know some lawyers, they are considering this.
Yeah,
Maybe
here.
they will have a plan.
Yeah.
Send an American lawyer to China
Yeah.
and stay maybe in Beijing or Shanghai for a few months.
Yeah. Would your firm take a lawyer?
You mean
Host a lawyer.
host a lawyer? I think a lot of Chinese law firms, they will have interest to host an American lawyer.
Okay.
That
well,
will be great.
we have to get somebody who can get away from his office, and who can do it, and who's interested in doing it, and who sees, ultimately business prospect. But I think it's easy to have business prospect with China. There's always business, and I mean, let's make a deal.
Yes, yes. And when American lawyers and Chinese lawyers, when they meet and sit down face to face and have discussions, have negotiations, have communications, actually I believe that will create a lot of very good ideas. That will be very interesting.
Yeah.
You are very curious about what kind of things am I doing here, right? I can tell you this. In Case Shetty, a local firm, and they have very good tax lawyers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and before I arrived here, actually I don't do tax law in China. But we found a very interesting common topic. That is the tax about cross-border tax and cross-border investment. 2 years ago, China has a new foreign tax credit system. Actually, that means, okay, if a Chinese company, they have business here, they have a branch, or they establish a new American companies here, and they can use the tax paid to the American government to offset, to credit the tax should be paid to the Chinese government by the Chinese parent company. So that is very, very interesting, and it is very important.
It's a matter of Chinese law, then. This is Chinese tax law.
It is a Chinese tax law. Yes, it is a new law. So it is. You can see it's extremely for those Chinese companies, which are considering making investment here. But if you would like to figure out how the whole system works, actually that means you need to know both American tax law and the Chinese tax law. First, you need to know how IRS does their business, what kind of tax you need to pay here, a corporate income tax to federal government, to state government. And next, you need to know how the tax treaty between the two countries works. And the third, you need to know how Chinese government imposes their tax. So you can see, you need the knowledge from both countries. And because I am a Chinese lawyer, I don't understand American tax law before I arrive here.
Cheer up, nobody else does either. That's a joke.
So when I arrive here, we just sit down. We talk to each other, and they teach me American tax law. I introduce Chinese tax law to American lawyers. Okay, then we have a better idea how the system works. And after 2 months, we even have some good ideas about a very good tax planning. If you have a very good tax planning and do it correct, do it properly, that means you will pay less tax. Of course, all legitimate, all legally.
Sure.
And by our calculation, if you do things right, maybe up to 7% of all American profit will be saved. You can pay 7% less. It is extremely exciting.
Yeah. And it's not generally known, not in China. So you take back a valuable,
in China, a lot of people, they are very, very interesting on this area.
Yes.
But the key point is, you need some American lawyers or American accountant to help you understand what is going here. That is important.
Yeah.
So you can see, we need cooperation, or we need coordination. We need some American professionals. We need their help. So it is very interesting. And
so how would it work? I mean, now you've been looking at this as one of your education points while you were embedded at Cade Schutte, but how would it work going forward? I mean, how do you see, for example, this kind of collaboration happening when you're back in Shanghai? How are you going to make this happen?
Oh, of course. In China, we have a lot of Chinese clients. And if someday some client, they come to my office and ask me, Andy, if we would like to make some investment in United States, do you have any idea about that? What's the first step? What's the next? Okay, I will say, okay, at least I know in Hawaii there are some very, very good lawyers, and I know them. And I have discussion with them, and I worked with them. I know they are trustworthy, and no matter which state you are going to make your investment, I think maybe it's a good idea for you to talk to them first. Just make a phone call, right? Maybe, okay. Maybe
So this is between your client and the lawyer here.
Yes.
But aren't you involved in that conversation?
But
Shouldn't you be?
You mean me?
Yeah.
Of course. Of course.
So it's three people. It's your client,
Yes.
it's you,
Yes.
and it's the lawyers here in Honolulu.
Yes, of course. And there are a lot of good reasons for me to do that. First, I will tell my client, these lawyers are good because I saw how they works. And second, they are trustworthy, and I can show their credential to you. And I know they are very successful lawyers here. And third, maybe Hawaii is a very convenient place because only 6 hours time difference between China and here. And if you would like to make a phone call to a lawyer who worked in New York, okay, that's 11 or 12 hours.
Yeah.
That's not convenient.
Yeah.
You know, when I am here every afternoon, 3 p.m. 3 p.m. here, that's 9 a.m. in Shanghai.
Perfect.
I will make phone calls with my own clients, so I can do Chinese legal works here. So it's convenient. And the fourth reason may be the legal service charge here may be a little bit less expensive than mainland lawyers.
Oh, sure, that's true. Especially in specialty areas like tax.
Yeah, but in tax area, of course, it is a very important area.
Yes.
I think Hawaiian lawyers can do things as good as those mainland lawyers.
Yes,
No doubt. I have
that's
no doubt
true.
about that.
Yeah, so it's very important, and you hooked up with a good firm. Cade Schutte is an excellent firm. It's as good as any firm.
Yeah.
And the tax department is excellent under Roger Epstein.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's a lucky break. Tell me how you got involved in the program, that you decided you would come and you decided you would, do it the way you've done it.
Oh, I think this year, maybe around April and May, Roger Epstein and other lawyers in these law firms, they contacted the Shanghai Luwan Judicial District. Actually, that is a government agency which is in charge of the supervision of legal practice. So they initiate this exchange program to Luwan Judicial District, and they are very interested in. The reason is this, because Shanghai actually today is some kind of economic center in China.
It's the New York of China.
Something like that, maybe. But
And Beijing is Washington.
maybe. And Shanghainese themselves, they would like to say, "Oh, we are the Paris in China."
Well, maybe they're that too.
Okay. But there are a lot of foreign companies, foreign trade activities. So the Shanghai government, they also feel they need more and more professionals who are familiar with foreign laws, foreign legal environment, or even foreign business. So they are very happy that there will be a chance to send some Chinese lawyers in the United States to study, to observe, to understand, to communicate. So they issued a notice to every law firms in Luan district, and just tell the law firms, okay, if you are interested in this program, okay, tell us, and we will organize an interview. And indeed, in June, Roger Epstein had an interview
Oh, he
with
came
all
to
these
China.
candidates.
He came to China?
No, Roger didn't come to China. We had an interview through Skype.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
that means Roger sit in his office, and we, all those candidates, sit in the office in Shanghai. And
As a group or one by one?
one by one. We talked to Roger. Roger took us one by one. Every interview lasts maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And after that, I was informed that, oh, Andy, you and Jonathan were chosen. You will get the opportunity to visit Hawaii. So Roger told us, Jonathan and you can choose by yourselves which one come first. So I talked to Jonathan, and we decide I come here first, and Jonathan will come in January. Yeah.
Are you in the same firm?
No, we are from different firms.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this was both a result of that notice from the Luan organization,
Yes.
the professional organization.
Yes.
So what was your expectation when you made that choice? What did you think you would be doing here?
Okay, it's always a good thing for you to understand a new culture, especially it is the United States, the most powerful economy in the world. And I think today, for a lot of Chinese lawyers, America still have the very good legal systems, and there are a lot of things we can learn here. And especially in recent years, more and more the Chinese new laws, actually they are trying to learn something from the American legal systems.
Sure.
For example, the foreign tax credit system. You, American lawyers, are very familiar with this system because you have this system more than 90 years or even 100 years. But this kind of system is brand new. You can see our corporate income tax law actually is relatively very simple. But your IR codes, okay, 2 volumes and plus 6 more volumes of regulations. But the Chinese foreign tax credit system, oh, it's very complicated, even complicated than the corporate income tax law. If you printed all the corporate income tax law, printed them out, maybe it's only 30 or 40 pages. But if you print the Chinese foreign tax credit systems out, it will be over 70 pages. And you can see most part of this is very, very similar with the US foreign tax credit system we are trying to study. We are trying to learn from your legal system. So it is a good thing for Chinese lawyers to know what is the American legal system. Maybe the laws here today will be the laws in China tomorrow. So,
well, you know, it strikes me, I wonder if you've thought about this, is that we live in a time when, you know, there's instant communication like Skype,
yeah.
and the world is really getting to be one big place, one place.
Yeah.
And if you find that somewhere else in some other country they're doing a good job at something, that they've learned, or it works, whatever it is, it works, then you should look at that and maybe adopt that in your own country. It's sort of a global best practices
Yes.
analysis. And I know that China does that. I think the U.S. should do more of that.
I don't know that.
Well, I mean, for example, we had a discussion, I'd like to ask you about this. We had a discussion last week about healthcare. Okay, and the U.S. is having all this consternation about the Obama healthcare bill act, and it'll go for a test on constitutionality next year with the Supreme Court, and it won't come to rest for a long time. At the same time, the numbers are not as good in terms of health as Canada and Europe and some places elsewhere. And so you say, well, maybe the U.S. ought to learn from those other places and get better life expectancies, lower infant mortality, what have you. But I think we need to do that. We haven't done that yet. We're inventing something that may or may not be the best.
I heard some discussions in the radio. Yes, I heard some journalists, they are discussing that maybe we need to learn from European countries, Germany or Canada. Yes, I heard about that, but I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so what I'm just pointing out that the U.S. can learn also.
Maybe.
And maybe the U.S. can learn about tax law from China. I mean, I like the 30-page idea. The 30-page idea sounds like a great idea.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. But I think, yes, indeed, in this area, sometimes you just need clarify a lot of things. Actually, I believe the history of the development of a law is trying to clarify different questions. Every time, if you clarify a question, you will see the law books become thicker and thicker.
Sure, and you have to deal with all these human situations, and the more situations you deal with, presumably the better the law is, but the thicker the book is.
Yeah.
So what about in China? I mean, are people respectful of the tax law? Is there compliance with the tax law in China? Because in some areas, for example, copyright piracy and that kind of thing, there's not all that much compliance even now. But what about the tax law? Does the government really enforce the tax law in China?
No, of course. I think in the corporate income tax law area, we have a very strong system to enforce all these laws. I'm not a tax lawyer in China, but I know.
But you may be one day.
Maybe, who knows? But indeed, I know that. I know this. Every week, really, every week, our tax agency in China, we say state administration of taxation. It's a government agency. Every week, they issue new regulations, new notices to clarify all kinds of issues in taxation system. They are serious, because if they feel there will be a problem, if people don't know how to calculate the taxable income, how to calculate the tax should be paid, that will be a problem. Because it is very important for the central government and the local government to get revenue from taxation.
Sure.
Very important. And it is very important for the business, for them to know clearly how much tax they should pay.
Sure.
You cannot pay too much, you cannot pay less. Pay less, you have problem.
You have to be able to predict.
Pay too much, you lose money. Right? So every week, we can see a lot of new regulations. So, if you do not have any experience in accounting or in tax laws, nobody, no a single lawyer, dare to claim himself as a tax lawyer. I will not do that. If the client asks me, okay, Andy, do you know something about the corporate income tax law? I would say, no, of course, I will not do that. But I know some very good tax lawyers. I will recommend them to you. I will refer your case to them. I think that's what I should do. Well, really complicated.
Yeah, sure, it is very complicated.
And you just mentioned the copyright law, right?
Yeah.
I would like to tell you this.
Yes.
Basically, I will say, technically, we have a very good copyright law.
Yes.
we have a very good trademark law.
Yes.
10 years ago, in 2001, China entered WTO, World Trade Organization. And after that, actually the trademark law, copyright law, and patent laws actually were rewritten or hugely revised. So most of the contents actually strictly comply with the international conventions and the treaties China government entered into. But I know still a lot of people, they are complaining about there are a lot of piracies, there are that kind of problems in China.
But the problems have been ameliorated. The problems are not so significant anymore.
I will say the problem is not coming from the law itself. Actually, it is coming from maybe we just don't have enough manpower to enforce. And I know there are some lawyers, they do IP laws. And I heard from them, they are complaining about it is extremely difficult to fight with those counterfeit goods. First, those counterfeit factories, they just hidden very well. It is difficult for you to find them. If you can report a clue, if you can report a lead to the government, of course they are very happy to do that. But the problem is, how can you get a positive lead? How can you find the location where all this counterfeit good, all these
Or like a factory or something like that.
Yeah, and sometimes it is really dangerous. You can imagine.
Sure, you're attacking somebody's livelihood.
Of course, they can have very easy case. They found some counterfeit goods in the custom, and they're trying to export. That will be very easy. You report the case, and the government will do the right things. But unfortunately, in a lot of cases, things are not so easy, and not so simple.
Is this your area? You said that you were not a tax lawyer. Did you get involved in...
I'm not an IP lawyer too.
Okay. Tell me what kind of a lawyer you are.
I do real estate and some insurance in China. Sometimes I do insurance litigations for the insurance companies.
So give me an example of a kind of litigation matter that you would handle.
For example, a company, they bought a policy to cover all the possible damage for the goods and for the assets of the company. And if something really bad happened, and there will be a claim against the insurance companies. And the insurance companies will examine carefully about the whole accident and examine how much money they lose from this accident. And they will try to figure out the reason, the real reason. If the reason belongs to the policy, you can find the reason is undercovered. Okay, the company will make compensation, of course. But if the loss, the damage, is coming from some personal fault, should not be compensated according to the terms of the policy, then you can see there will be a dispute.
So do you represent the insurance company side of it? Or?
Yes. Yes.
I could tell. I could tell.
Why?
Just the way you described it.
Of course, in some cases, the plaintiff, they won. And sometimes the insurance companies won. That depends. Every case is different.
What is it like going to court in China? And if you've had any, ability to compare that with going to court here in Hawaii?
I would say actually very similar, but at the same time very different. For example, I will give you some example first. When I arrived here, I learned the new word, deposition. There is no deposition in China legal system. Very interesting, right?
Yeah.
The reason is this. According to our civil procedure law, if any party has a witness, this witness should appear before the judge, because judge will ask questions to this witness, and it is the judge to decide whether this witness is reliable. And this is because in China we don't have a jury system. We don't have a jury. We don't have a juror. It is the judge who take the responsibility of the facts discovery. The function of lawyer is trying to present the evidence which can help the judge discover all facts relating to the questions under dispute.
So you would bring the witness in.
Yes.
You would present the witness to the judge.
Yes.
Would you ask the witness questions, or just say, this witness will say X, A, B, C, and then leave it to the judge to ask the questions?
Actually, I think similarly, we have direct examination and cross-examination.
Okay.
That means, okay, for example, if you are the plaintiff and you have a witness, then when the hearing starts, the judge will require the witness appear before him or before her. And the sequence is this. First, the plaintiff, the party who presents this witness, will ask questions. That's something like direct examination. And after that, the other party will ask a question. That's similar to cross-examination. After that, it's not the end. The judge will ask questions. And because you can see, it is the judge's responsibility to do the facts discover. Sometimes the questions from the judge is way much more than the questions from the lawyers.
Why? I mean, if you were a good lawyer making your case, wouldn't you want to ask him all the questions that make a difference? Now here the judge, are the questions that come from the judge directly relevant to the case, or do the judges like to just go off in space?
It is interesting because you can see it is the judge's responsibility to do that. If I am a lawyer representing the other party, maybe I have very few points, right? I will build my defense on several points. And if I think I get a breakthrough in a certain points, I think it will be enough. It is not necessary for me to ask too many questions. If I can establish my point, that's enough. But that's different from judge. Judge will have different perspectives. He or she would like to know every detail in this case. The interest is totally different from a lawyer. Because, you know why? Because if any party appeal, and during the appeal, the upper level of the court finds the facts discovery is wrong, actually, on some extent, there will be deemed it's the judge's fault for the lower level.
He didn't ask enough questions.
Yes, he or she didn't do a very careful facts discovery.
So is this before the trial, or is this the trial we are talking about?
In the trial.
In the trial.
When I arrive here, I know this. Yeah. Maybe only 2% of civil cases will go to trial.
Yes.
But according to our procedure law, nearly every case will go to trial.
Ah, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Don't you? But maybe there's a take-home point involved here. Maybe when you go back, you can talk about settlement some more. I guess those cases don't settle so easily in Shanghai.
But in our procedure law, we do have a settlement before trial. We do have this kind of procedure. But the problem is this. If we don't have a trial, actually the judge, they are very busy. They don't have enough time to examine all the details, all the evidences in this case. So the settlement before the trial, sometimes just like a preliminary facts discovery, the judge will spend some time to ask some very basic questions to try to understand what is the dispute. You know, if they really spend too much time before a trial, or maybe they cannot finish all the tasks. The judges are really very busy. We have a lot of cases.
How about this notion that, you know, the judge is the trier of fact, and the trier of law too, the one who applies the law.
Yes. Correct.
But now the judge is having this very active participation. Sounds like it's much more active in terms of asking questions and finding out all the detail than in the United States.
Yeah.
And you wonder if the judge, I mean, what if the judge finds that some evidence should be excluded? That it's evidence he should not or she should not consider.
Okay.
What happens?
Okay. By the end of the trial, the judge will issue a written judgment. In China, in this written judgment, the judge, they are required to write down evidence number 1, I will take it. Evidence number 2, I will deny it. And the reason why I take it and the reason why I deny it, they are required to write all this reasoning, to write down all the procedure of the discovery, write them down, to explain the reason why I take this and why I deny this. So you can see it is interesting.
That's very interesting, yeah. I mean, so the written reports sound like a really good idea to me, actually, because judges should demonstrate, they should be transparent, demonstrate their thought process. What about the appeal? Do you have a lot of appeals in China?
Yes,
is everything automatically appealed? I mean, how does that work?
Not automatically repealed, but I know a lot of cases you will see an appeal to the higher level of courts. It is common.
Do they get reversed?
Sometimes.
How much of the time?
I don't know the exact statistics, but yes.
More than half?
No, of course, much lesser than that. Yeah.
So what about have you been involved in the appellate practice? Have you gone to the appeals court? Are you permitted to go and argue the case in an appeals court?
There is no any restriction for the lawyers representing the clients in an appellate court. Our court system, actually, we only have 4 levels. The first, the upper level is the Supreme Court, and next is High Court. High Court is a provincial level. Basically, every province have only one High Court. On the High Court is intermediate courts. That's something like municipality level of courts. In some big cities, there will be more than one intermediate courts, like Shanghai. Shanghai has 2 intermediate courts. And in Beijing and in Chongqing, they have more.
This is geographical?
Yes, geographical. Yes. And the lowest level is district court. And maybe in Shanghai, 1 intermediate courts, they will manage maybe around 10 district courts. And actually, the district court, they can establish some dispatching branches, but that branch is not an independent court. It is just a trial organization. It is not an independent court. So most of the case will go to district court, and if you appeal, that will be in the intermediate court. For some cases, the trial will be start from the intermediate court. That will be the IP court, IP cases. And sometimes, if the dispute amount is very high, that will be start from the intermediate court. For those cases, the appellate court will be the High Court. So few cases will go to the Supreme Court for a trial. That is rare, really rare.
Oh, actually, you could have a trial in the Supreme Court.
Technically, we did.
Yeah.
Indeed,
it
we
was
can
a
have
very big case.
Like very big case.
Of national interest.
And a very important case.
Yeah. So what about the specialties of the judges? I remember the American Bar Association had its annual convention out here maybe 3-4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And there was a judge from China who was I think he was the chief judge for intellectual property.
Oh.
And I had the sense that he was a specialist. I mean, he knew a lot about intellectual property, and that's what he specialized in. Is that the way it works in other areas too, that you have specialty judges who only rule in certain kinds of cases?
Of course, of course. I think nowadays, nearly in every court, the judge actually is something like a professional. Because if you are a judge dealing with the criminal cases, you only serve in a certain internal organizations for this court. You will be a professional criminal judge.
That's it. That's your career.
That's your career. If you keep this career route, that means in your daily life, you only deal with the criminal cases. You will not take charge in IP cases or family laws.
Or insurance cases.
Or insurance cases, yeah.
Well, that's very
so,
good.
The Chinese court, they divide the trial judges into different groups. We say they have different internal organizations. For example, regularly, the number one will deal with family laws or personal injury laws. And the number two basically will deal with contract laws. And number third or number four maybe real estate laws, for example. I cannot remember the exact sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And number five sometimes will be IP laws. Yeah.
So do they sit together, or in an IP case, just the IP judge sits?
Different, independent. IP judges sit on the IP cases.
Gee, I like that. We could learn from that, actually,
Yes.
because, sometimes in the U.S., judges are expected to be experts on everything.
Yes.
And they're not.
Yes. It is a little bit surprise for me that when I arrived here, I learned a federal judge, actually, he can deal with criminal cases and the civil cases at the same time.
Yeah.
A little bit surprise to me.
Yeah, because it's different. So, did you get a walk around? Did you see here in Hawaii? Did you see the federal court? Did you see trials? Did you see state trials?
Yes, Mark Shulov, he showed me.
Oh, Mark
He showed me
Shulov,
around.
yeah, he's a good tour guide.
Yes, I visited every court in Honolulu.
Good.
Very interesting. And I
Yeah.
heard some court hearings.
Yeah. Oh, you okay?
And I saw those jurors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you meet judges? Did you meet Judge Border, for example?
Oh no, it's a pity that I don't have a chance to talk this kind of topic with the judge.
Yeah.
Well, no.
It's okay, though. I think it's very important to go and see
Yeah.
the trial, see how it works,
Yeah.
sort of smell the courtroom, figure out what's going on.
Yeah, actually, the appearance, the size, very similar with the Chinese court.
Yeah.
But different is the procedure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're both formal. There's a great distance between counsel and the judge, and you have to be very respectful and all that. Is that the same in China?
Yes.
You can't be, you can't be anything less than respectful.
Yes. And I think American courts are more relaxed
Than China courts.
than China because the attorneys is allowed to walk from here to here, from the jury to the judge. In Chinese court, it is not allowed. You have to sit before your desk. Yeah. If you would like to speak, you should abide by the procedures. And if you would like to issue some objections, you need to raise your hand. If you get permission from the judge, you can speak. You are not allowed to stand or walk. No.
You ever see the American movies in China about all those courtroom movies? We make so many movies about trials,
A lot. In China, there are a lot of fans. They like watch the legal movies. I like too.
Okay.
I have some colleagues. They are the fans of Boston Legals.
Yeah, sure, Boston Legal.
Boston Legals. I didn't spend too much I didn't spend too much time to watch that, but I know there are a lot of fans. Yeah.
So what about?
I will tell you this.
Yeah.
I'm a fan for John Grisham.
Sure.
I love his legal frictions.
Yes.
And actually, 2 weeks ago, I just bought his new books in iTunes. Litigators, a very good novel. I like that.
So are you fluent in English when you read? You can read any English book, no problem. English law book, the Internal Revenue Code, all that.
John Grisham's legal fiction,
Yeah.
I will not have any problem. But for IR codes,
Yeah.
it's a little bit difficult for me.
Yeah.
So that means I will spend more time on a single page. When I read this, I will spend some time to think about it,
Yeah.
to try to really understand it.
Yeah.
Every,
Sure.
you know, every word, I know them. But when they write down in the legal codes, sometimes you need to pay a lot more attention to it.
Sure.
You must make sure that you really understand the real meaning
Sure.
of this code.
Well, doesn't it work the same way? I mean, if I don't speak conversational Mandarin, but if I did speak conversational Mandarin, that wouldn't be enough to help me understand the Chinese law books.
Yeah.
I'd have to be a lawyer
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So how do you get to be from a lawyer to a judge in China? Does everybody want to do that? Is that a natural career pattern? Is it possible for you?
It's different. It's different. It's not a natural career path. You become a lawyer first. After several years practice, you become famous and somebody know you. Then you will be appointed as a judge or elected as a judge. No, it is totally different in China. In China, if you would like to become a lawyer, you need to get a college degree. You need to pass the national bar examination, and you should work in a local law firm at least for 1 year. After that, you can apply for a practice license. But our legal system will not choose judge from a good lawyer. That's a totally different. The judge is more similar to a civil servant. That means you need to pass the national bar examination and pass the internal examination of a court system. And at first, you will be appointed as an assistant to the judge, and you work for a judge.
Clerk. Law clerk. Well, in the U.S. they call it.
In U.S.
law,
you
yeah,
say clerk.
okay,
Yeah. And work for several years. And if you really do well, and maybe a judge or the court will recommend you a contingent fee agreement.
Contingent fee if you're the plaintiff. Well,
Yes.
well, I suppose you could do it if you're the defense also.
Yes.
If you win or lose,
Yes,
you know.
yes. Both parties can sign a contingent
yeah,
fee
yeah.
agreement. And according to our law, the highest margin of the contingent fee is 30% of the amount under dispute. 30%. I don't know what is in
Oh, there's no
Hawaii.
limit.
There's no limit.
Not that I know of. I mean, I'm not in that area, but I don't believe there's a limit. So, and you hear that there's a lot of contingent fee arrangements that are way more than
Yeah.
30%, 35%, 40%, maybe more.
And in China, for this non-litigation works today, it is very common. You use a bill-by-hour system. That is common, and that is reasonable, because before you do this work, nobody knows how much times you have to spend in this case.
Right.
Right.
You
That's
don't have the
reasonable.
experience.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's actually it's very interesting and kind of refreshing, because I think what's happening, you can tell me more, is that the U.S. is learning from China, or should learn from China, and China is learning or should learn from the U.S. on some things. And at the end of the day, you know, you can actually make a list of best practices that would be best in both places, and it would be remarkably similar, I think. And this goes right across the board in the practice of law, which tells you a lot about the way the world is coming together.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you in our remaining time about Hawaii. I wanted to ask you about your impressions of Hawaii, not necessarily the beach, you know, and the palm trees and all that. I wanted to ask you about your impressions of Hawaii as a community that is fit for the 21st century, as a community that is going to keep up, you know, and do business and be an attractive place for Chinese investors and business people. What do you see as the positives and the negatives for Chinese people coming to Hawaii and trying to do business either here or through here?
To be honest, I didn't see any negative aspects.
Okay.
I'm not trying to flatter,
Okay.
but to be honest, I would say Hawaii is a very nice place. The weather, always good.
But
And
you-
the people are
You
very
always, you always
nice.
hear about the Chinese businessmen who go straight to Los Angeles, straight to San Francisco, straight to New York. They don't want to fool around. They're serious, you know, and they'll fly right over. We won't see them at all. So, what is the sort of the Chinese mentality about that?
That means I think Hawaiian maybe needs some promotion in China. And today, if you talk Hawaiian, oh, a lot of Chinese people, they know it's a really nice place, but a really nice place for vacation. I don't think a lot of Chinese people, they understand that, oh, actually, Hawaii is a good place for business too. You know, especially if you would like to hire some professionals. This is a very good bridge between the China and mainland United States. But I don't think there are a lot of Chinese people, they do think about that. They don't think about because nobody tell them about this. There are not too many promotion on this point. They need somebody to tell them to think about it.
So how does the scenario work? I'm a successful businessman. I have maybe a factory or several factories. I want to do business in the U.S. I'm not sure how, but maybe I want to buy investment property, buy a company, have a relationship between my company and the American company, get some technology, get some know-how. So I come to you and I say, Andy, help me set up, you know, some corresponding companies in the U.S. What role does Hawaii play in that?
I'm not a businessman, but I know this. If you really would like to make some investment in manufacturing industry, maybe the most important thing is decide a location for your business. That's really important. Whether Hawaii is a good place for manufacture or not, I don't know that. But I know this. You can find very good and not expensive services, professional services, for example, accounting or legal service here. And it's a very good base for the communication between the China and the mainland.
Yeah. So it's a portal. It's an entryway
Yes.
to the U.S.
Yes.
It's a soft landing. It's easy to be here, you
Yes.
know.
Yes. And at the same time, if you can buy a house here and spend some vacation here, that's good.
Yeah.
Why not?
I've heard that is happening. I've heard that Chinese investors, low key, are buying property in Hawaii in an unprecedented amount. You know, using corporate vehicles so that it's not easy to see that they're doing that. I've heard that kind of acquisition is happening. Real estate, mostly in Oahu. Do you have any information? Is that happening? Do you know?
Yes, actually, one of my colleagues, he is considering buy a house here. Yeah, and I talked this to several realtors here, and even already to see some houses. And this friend himself will come to Hawaii next year. So indeed, there are
Sure.
more and more people are considering this.
So now my last question for you, because we're almost out of time.
Oh, time
See
is
how
fast.
see how fast the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
goes. What can Hawaii do to become more appealing to the Chinese? You know, we had a wave of Japanese investment that lasted for 20 years. Well, maybe not 20, but something close to that. And that was arguably beneficial for us. Changed a lot of the things, the way things work in our real estate market and so forth. But now the Chinese are dominating international investment. And I wonder if there's something that we can or should do here in Hawaii to make ourselves more appealing, to do more business with the Chinese, to have them come over here, not only as tourists, that's nice, but also as the same kind of business nexus that you were just describing.
My opinion is this: maybe Hawaii needs more promotion, just more promotion. Hawaiian needs to find some business existence or cultural existence within China. You need to have for example, a representative office, or even a company who is promoting the Hawaiian culture
In China.
in China,
So
you need to tell
has an office in China.
yeah, you need to tell Chinese people, we have a very good weather, and the real estate market is keep steady in the last several years, and maybe you can find very good business opportunities here. Maybe you will find some business opportunities in new energies, right? And you can find also very good lawyers here.
Okay.
Why not?
Even healthcare.
Yeah, yeah, even healthcare. When Chinese people arrive here,
Yeah.
when they see Hawaiian, the whole environment with their own eyes, they will love this place.
Yeah.
Because I saw and I love this place. I'm very sure about that. I will come here again.
Okay.
Next year.
That was my last question. When are you coming back?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Okay,
you, Andy.
good. Thank you.
A
Thank you,
lovely
Jay.
conversation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
谢谢。
谢谢。
再见。
谢谢。再见。Okay.